Right, morning. Welcome everybody. This morning we are talking digital things, digital finance, digital tokens, NFTs, all sorts of newfangled elements coming out in the digital space. And this is all Trevor's fault. So I'm certainly hoping that the lights went on. There you go. The lights went on, but the question is whether the lights are on just on the outside or whether the lights are on the inside. We'll have to find that out. So, Trevor, NFTs, blockchain, digital currencies, what is it all about?
Well, number one, it must be the last day of the month or close to it, because my laptop just goes into a loop every last day of the month, and it's doing the same again. So you might get me, but it doesn't really matter, because you've asked me to talk about someone I know nothing about a subject that I don't even understand. And the more that I tried to actually do some research on it, the more I realized why this is way beyond me, all of these particular topics. So the guy you've asked me to talk about is someone that I've tried to get our techie people to get to understand. So I've been sharing his name. Kevin Chou, I think, is how you pronounce it. Let me see if I can go, and if it takes me a bit of time, I'm telling you, it's not my fault. It's whoever controls my laptop. Let me get a link for you guys. In fact, why don't I'm going to get the link, and then I'm going to share screen. Let me see here. This is how fast I am on the technical side. For goodness sake. Right, there's a link for you guys, I hope. And then I'm going to get up and share a screen on this guy. There he is. Okay, so that gives you an indication of how technically challenged I am. Most people can do that in 2 seconds. It takes me 2 hours to get a screen up. So this guy, what I'm interested in is how individuals, 11 years ago, the story goes, and this article was perhaps written in 2019, I seem to remember that. Yes, summer of 2019. So 11 years prior to this, the story goes of him really developing, being at home with his father and playing games and getting into, not really doing anything. Then going off to college. So I think you guys must all go into this. And this guy in the article says, I first met Chou at Forte's headquarters. He went to go and just talk to him about a game that these people were developing in the esports arena. And he saw this guy Chou, and Chou was talking. He went into the corporate market, and when he got into the corporate market as a high-profile computer fundi of some kind, the guys in the corporate space looked at him as a youngster and said, okay, you will do all the PowerPoint designs. And it took him a year doing PowerPoint designs to realize that corporate life wasn't for him. So he left it and he went and designed his own games. And he talks of a couple of games that he designed which failed and failed and failed again. And then he came up with a game which he later on called Kabam, that turned into $1 billion that he sold it for around 2017, 2018. So what fascinates me is During that same time period, we were sitting here in South Africa, and I was talking to people in our networks about, hey man, this thing has got to be the future. We've got to be looking at this thing. And it was way beyond me. But all I could see was, hey, we've got to get down this route. Someone helped me get into this, and no one helped me to get into this thing. And I really get so blooming frustrated when we sit here at the tip of Africa, and we think we should be focusing on old style businesses, when in actual fact, the big money is in digital and has always been since 1994. And some of us have been the slowest operators. So I whack myself on the back all the time because I couldn't get into this thing. So please go and do yourself a favor and read about this guy now. And the whole story is about him. That he considered an IPO, but decided to sell in 2016. I don't know if you can see that near the top, ultimately closing for almost $1 billion. That's not bad work, Thabisa. If you can find this in a mobile toilet of some kind, just outside of, in between Alex and Santon, this is where you got to be spending your time as a youngster. He went back to his college and he started sponsoring them and building technical centers and all that sort of thing. But I love the end of the story because the end of the story is all about what wisdom's is about. And that is, he found himself getting bored. And he likes to be at the cutting edge and bleeding edge of things. He found himself getting bored. And he found that the real best way to actually come up with great concepts was to go and take himself off for a 6-month sabbatical. So he went touring the world, and he's come back with a concept which I picked up last week called Rally. And you can have a look at it as rally.io. Now, I'd love to know what this .io is. Someone needs to tell me what that is about. And in that, he's, so for me, because I know nothing about this, nothing about the subject, nothing about the topic, he has come out and he comes up here with a statement, and he says, somewhere along, I can't, he just says, okay, there it is there. In this world that we are entering into, he believes cryptocurrencies will be the way to safely and securely conduct trade. So he's taken his $1 billion now, and he has said, I'm now focusing in the world of cryptocurrency. Now, most of the people that I talk to in my networks, and it happened to me again, I was talking about it on Monday morning, where I said to the guys, I'm looking at a guy where I'm trying to understand how we can use this blockchain technology with all of our content, because at Wisdoms, we're extremely content rich. And we want to offer all of our content around the world. And we've taken high price, high value items, and we're offering it to the world at $1 a month. And we'd like to get to 1 million people. Now, how do you do that is the question I ask. And then when I ask people, well, do you have distribution channels? Almost everyone in our networks come back and says, man, we don't have enough influencers. We don't have enough reach. We don't have all of this. This guy's turning around and saying, you can take your content, you can utilize social tokens, and you can start building up your own community on the basis of them becoming raving fans. Now, there's a book that I love. And you can actually utilize this. But when I speak to people in our connections, and I mentioned blockchain, crypto, and this sort of thing, I see their eyes do a backflip, and they don't even want to talk about it. In fact, one guy said, you know what, I don't even want to talk about it. And I go back to the time of viewing Second Life in the early 2000s. These guys were playing with the developing of little characters and towns, and they were offering what are technically social tokens. You could earn credits, and you could buy things in a Second Life world. These guys were showing this to us 20 years ago, and most people were not picking it up. In fact, I was just thinking on there, if I can go down a couple of avenues. One of the smartest guys ever in this country was Mark Shuttleworth, because he picked up that from a digital perspective, there in Cape Town, out of his little home environment, the United States couldn't work with this. What was it? Ivan, you'll know, cryptic type coding and all that sort of thing. And he developed here in Cape Town that thought product, which is sold to the Americans for 4 billion, was it rand or dollars in those days? And some of us are sitting here with our blooming feet up in the sun, wanting to make money. And the way that we want to make money is to be hawkers, either on a street corner or within a shopping mall, doing traditional things and making cookies and muffins. Really, it's just not for me. So I still don't understand what smart contracts are. I went in because I just wanted to explain to all of you what I understand about Rally.io. So I went in deep and I realized I was drowning. So someone needs to help me convert all of our wealth of content-rich material into some sort of smart contract through Rally.io, and let's learn this thing together, please. Help me, help me, help me is my frustrating call to arms from anyone in this that can help me. So I'm giving you the leads. I think this is where the big money is, and in fact, my gut is never ever wrong. But now I need to tie down with some youngsters or some young oldsters or some old youngsters who can actually point us in the direction and get us into a smart contract by the end of the week, please.
Good. Thanks, Trevor. So yeah, very, very interesting. So Rob, you're involved in the tech world. Does this mean anything to you?
I had heard of Mr. Chou, but I hadn't actually read up, but I certainly will. Very interesting. And he seemed to get going through gaming. And I think one of the futures of technology, the use of technology, is to introduce games into the way that people get taught. There was a wonderful movie, I can't remember what it was called, but it was about a guy who was teaching in a very poor neighborhood, drugs and gangs and all that kind of stuff. And he had a very rebellious class. But what he did is he started to teach them with real life experiences. So if he was teaching them maths or something like that, he would teach them about, money. What happens if I give you 10 cents and I want to buy the apple, and how much change will you give me, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's very elementary, but just illustrates the point that says gaming for education is really, really, really the way things go, because kids to a large degree play games today. So teach them in the mode that they're actually familiar with. So I have a friend who lives in Australia, and he sent me his son on an exchange program. So he could come to South Africa, and he would actually job shadow us as a company to everything we did. Leadership meetings, going to visit clients. And in one particular instance, I took him to IBM, my alma mater. And so I sat down with my brother, who happened to be running a large part of IBM at the time, and we started discussing what this youngster does. And he says he plays games. And we talked about, so what lessons have you learned in playing games? He said, I'm not quite sure. I learned how to what size gun to use to shoot the baddies down and all that kind of stuff. So we said, do you play team games? And he said, yes, I do. And they said, well, what do you learn about people in the team? He said, some guys are really good shooters. Some guys are really good defenders. Some guys are really this. Some guys are fast. Some guys are whatever. So he said, well, what have you learned from that? Well, in terms of what roles people are going to play, they will play a role according to what it is that they're really good at, because if they're good at it, if they enjoy it, they'll do well at it. So there was a lot to be learned. And then there was things to be learned about management in there. So how do you manage your team? How do you incent them? How do you inspire them? What kind of targets do you give them, etc.? So there's taking something which is technology in the use of education. I think it's a must. There's more, and Trevor, I think to find your purpose clearly, there may be lots of ways to skin the cat, but to define the purpose very clearly, one looks at whether blockchain is applicable or not. I think everybody throws the two words cryptocurrency and blockchain together in one. They're not. Okay, a blockchain is a secure delivery mechanism for making your contract between supplier and consumer safe. And yes, blockchain itself could be, but we have tried to use it for a big company in Australia, as it happened, and they just kind of lost interest. I think, like Trevor, they were expecting something to happen by the end of the week and had miscalculated that, and it's not going to happen by the end of the week. And it being a new technology, it needs to be trusted. And it isn't yet. I mean, look at, and because of the association with cryptocurrencies, which I've never seen any kind of share as volatile as the cryptocurrency is, regardless of which one it is, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's whatever. I mean, I have never gone into that gambling den at all. Fortunes have been made. For fortunes to be made, fortunes have been lost. Nah. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to get my fingers burnt. I'm probably too cautious at any rate. So there's a lot of food for thought in this particular very, very open discussion, like getting into IoT and stuff like that, but I'll leave it to somebody else on those fronts for now. That's me. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, some good insights there as well. So, Jasper, I know you're into cryptocurrencies. I mean, you own a bank. I mean, what else would you do? So,
morning. No, I think I sympathize with part of Trevor's frustration, because there's so much new technology available today that we didn't grow up with. You know, you almost need a lifetime of exposure, and not just to the theory. I mean, the theory, the library is full of theory, but the application and have the benefit of working for a company or with people who are applying it and making it work, so that you can start getting a feel for what can be done with the technology. So I agree, we're really just skimming the surface. But I like where Rob was taking the conversation, and that is to say, first of all, don't confuse. You know, I actually teach on that. Become a student of words, because often we don't understand a word, and then we don't ask, and we keep being ignorant on that word. And just because another person uses the word, he makes me feel inferior because he seems to know what that word means. But not knowing it, that person's also just throwing a word around that he doesn't know and understand. And when you ask him what does that word mean, all of a sudden you realize this guy doesn't know himself. So I like where he's taking us to say it's a huge difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain. And yes, cryptocurrency are making use of blockchain, but blockchain has got massive applications out there in the future world. And I don't know too much about it, but yes, I agree with him. But I was also tickled by Trevor's comment on the social tokens. But that linked up with Rob's thing to say gaming, the application of gaming, because if I just look at a lot of my own development, as a youngster, I loved playing the boards, game boards like Monopoly. And then when Cashflow 101 came out with Robert Kiyosaki, I was already an adult, and I made a point to go and play that game as often as I can with groups of friends to see if we're on the same page when it comes to thinking about entrepreneurship and business. It's a fun social experience and can take basically a whole day. But I know that it is the way that youngsters start exploring the world around them. So, I think we as elderly people, we would probably not be able to develop the games, but there are very clever people who can develop the games. But if we can almost work on the script, the story, and work in the rewards and incentives and the penalties and stuff like that about different issues of the game of life, that could be quite an interesting exercise. I think the other challenge we have is what Rob also said. It's a new world out there, and it's almost the new Wild West. A lot of people get killed in the process. They don't understand how to socially interact in the space. They're gullible. And unfortunately, you have the human greed factor that comes in, and everybody just hears the one story of the one guy who became a billionaire, but they don't know of the other billion who tried and didn't even make it, and they lost their money. But that's just part of life. And that's why it comes back to, you cannot be the fundi on everything. I think yesterday the game was the word that came out was pick your game and play your game and become an expert in your game. And if the rest of the world doesn't want to play with you, then fine. Look for other people who want to play your game. But I think that the reality is that it will take time to adopt to this new world, and there will be a lot of casualties along the way, ourselves included, paying school fees and coming back to be wise, pay as little school fees as possible, learn as much as you can from other people's experiences. But the reality is, I think the growth in technology is just happening at the pace that it even overwhelmed youngsters. And I remember there was many years ago, where we just started our guest house, and a young man of 26 came to live with us for a few days because he was attending a course on speed reading close to us. And I was impressed by this young man's drive to read, to learn how to speed read. And I said, why? He said, no, because he's in the IT industry, and the rate at which developments take place, he can't read fast enough to stay abreast of it. And if he doesn't stay abreast of it, he's going to be thrown off the horse here, and he might even lose his job. So what will be the future? And as Trevor was just scrolling down the article of this young man who commented that he's now taking the subway every day, and he sees that people are glued to their phones. I can literally see with technology speeding up and connectivity becoming faster and better, we might just step into a new virtual world where the world as we see it now and experience it now will not become it, but that that fictitious world of 20 years ago will now become reality. Even though the word tokens, it's not a new thing. I remember going to church bazaars, and then you have to go to a certain table and you buy your tickets in certain denominations, and with that you went and bought your boerewors and you bought your coffee and your. So it was a way to already bring a different kind of currency into circulation, and it will just take time to build the trust. But somewhere along the line, the stars will align, and then we will be in a new world. And we just need to be around for that new world to participate.
Thanks, Jasper. Yeah, a new world. Yeah, interesting. But I'm not sure about the stars aligning. I'm not. I don't think that's a real practicality somehow. But you know, who knows? You know, Hollywood might have some different ideas about that one. So, Lee, how are your stars aligning in this digital space?
Well, I was fascinated by a New York Times article quite a few months ago now. And it was, and I'm also going to do a Trevor and share my screen if that's okay. And let me just make sure that I've got the right thing up. No, I don't. Let me just get there. I'm definitely doing a Trevor here. So this is they think it's the first digital art that is called a non-fungible asset, non-fungible asset. And so this was verified by blockchain as unique, and as a result, it was sold for $69 million at Christies. The artist is known as Beeple, and it just, we talk about living in a digital world where and artists definitely are people who are going to be at the fringes, testing the boundaries of what's possible using different materials. So here you have somebody saying, I have digital in front of me, zeros and ones. What can I do with zeros and ones that is going to be not just playing, but a genuine work of art that is unique and verified as such, and that even though it's digital and could possibly be copied multiple times, that there is a unique version of this art that is verified as such and is therefore owned by somebody as the original, no matter how many copies are made of it going forward, that may be as close as damn it to the original, but this is still valued at $69 million. And it just is exactly this step further and further into a digital world that I believe it's going to be an integrate. We're going to have to learn how to step both digital and real, because I think as much as we might get drawn into a digital world, we will also be pulled back into the real world. I'm hearing more and more in the health and wellness industry, for example, you know, we have these lovely psychological words about being grounded, that we need to be grounded. You know what grounded means? Go outside, take your shoes off and walk on the grass. And that's what we did as kids. And it's just that as much as we get drawn into a digital world, there's also a real world that's going to call us back. But we cannot choose between the two. Yeah, so I don't know if that was the topic. I think the topic was about the future of money and where we get involved. But I just think if a digital art piece is worth $69 million, we better pay attention.
I don't know. Somebody paid something. I'm not sure if it was attention, but yeah, we'll time will tell on that particular one. So Tabiso, come on board and tell us we all got this wrong, and how can you unravel it for us? Let's just switch off our videos for Tabiso as well if we can.
You know, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, another confusing thing, you know. Imagine buying, you know, a JPEG for 69 million. Wow. Okay. I think that today's topic was very interesting. You know, I learned a lot. There's a lot of things that I didn't learn. That I didn't, you know. So I'm thankful for today. You know, I decided to actually research this NFT thing. You know, and I saw that, you know, Jack Dorsey, actually the founder of Twitter, actually sold his first tweet for 2.3 million. And I don't understand that, you know. Man, I just think that this NFT thing and blockchain technology, crypto, it's just too confusing for me, you know. And Warren Buffett actually said that don't invest in things that you can't understand, as opposed to, you know, I think that, you know, I don't know. Okay. I think that, you know, when it comes to investing in cryptocurrency, I don't think that I would do that, you know, because I think that the volatility of crypto makes it difficult to actually forecast the future, you know. I don't think that crypto is actually an option now, you know, or in the next 20 to 50 years, because everything is still so, you know, uncertain, you know. But maybe in 100 years, who knows, you know, I actually see it working, you know, because blockchain, I think blockchain will become a big thing in the future, you know, because, you know, it actually holds every transaction that has ever occurred, you know. And I think that when it comes to privacy and actually seeing where to go, it actually helps, you know. But man, I just think that crypto is too risky, you know. It is too dependent on external factors. I feel that it is a popularity slot machine, you know, and its value comes from demand, you know, demand from who wants it, you know, who wants it next. But it can also plummet, and when it plummets, who wants it, you know. That's the thing. I think too speculative on my side, you know, but I understand blockchain and I actually see why it's actually necessary, you know. But we'll see, you know, because blockchain is still in its infancy, and you know the internet is still relatively new. So I think that when it comes to this topic of NFTs, blockchain technology, and digital currency, I think that's just my contribution. I really, I really don't know what to say, you know. So thank you, Ivan.
Great, thanks, Tavisa. Yeah, look, I think it's um, all very, very interesting, but yeah, lots of things still to be explained. So, seeing we in the screen sharing mode, have a quick look at this. So NFTs explained. There's nothing like an explosion of blockchain news to leave you thinking, what's going on here? That's the feeling I've experienced reading about Grimes getting millions of dollars for NFTs, and Nyan Cat being that thing being sold as one. But the time we all thought we sort of knew what the deal was, the founder of Twitter put an autographed tweet up for sale on NFT. So Trevor, here's somebody who's got sympathy with you after literal hours of reading. I think I know. I also think I'm going to cry. But the interesting thing is, and I'll put these links into the chat box. What this guy says actually sort of aligns with some of my thinking. He says, do people really think this will become like art collecting? I'm sure some people really hope so. Like whoever paid $390,000 for a 50-second video by Grimes, the person who paid $6.6 million for a video by Beeple. Actually, one of Beeple's pieces was auctions at Christies. Sorry, I was busy right-clicking on that Beeple video and downloading the same file that the person paid millions of dollars for. So I think we'll leave it at that, because that pretty much sums it up for me. So if you can, you paid $69 million for something and I can right click on it and download it myself. What's non-fungible about that? I'm not too sure. It all seems a little bit like a big scam. So, and talking about that, I found another article which actually says that NFTs are a scam. So, it's yeah, it is interesting. Look, I think blockchain has absolutely valid applications. I think the applications that have been put out there at the moment are primarily scams. The people who are putting out NFTs are making huge fortunes. I'm not sure that anybody else is making any money out of it. So yeah, I'm a skeptic, as you may have guessed, in terms of that kind of application. Yeah, it's people are getting, as Rob said, people are getting rich overnight, but other people are getting poor overnight as a result of this. And I mean, the share price of blockchain is just one great example of that. So there's this share price of blockchain over the last, that's 6 or 7 months. So you want to play in that kind of market, good luck with that. It's, it hit a high of over $60. Where is it? The 15th of May. Oh no, $50,000. Where's that? This thing doesn't. There, $62,000, almost $63,000 on the 15th of April, and it's now sitting at $36,000 just a few weeks later. So,
Ivan, sorry, I can't see the screen properly. Were you talking about blockchain or Bitcoin?
Sorry, I was talking about Bitcoin. Yeah, apologies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So it is an extremely volatile market, as has been said, and fortunes are being won and lost in minutes on that platform. Yes, Trevor.
But I think Rob actually prefaced that there's people seem to equate Bitcoin with blockchain, and I think that's the trap that we all fall in. The speculative end of this real, it's a revolution, and it's happening right in front of us, underneath us, above us, all around us, is actually the technology. It's not the speculative end. And I think the fear that people have is looking through these glasses of not understanding all that speculation. That's rubbish. I want to understand. When a guy comes up with $1 billion and he says, this is what I'm going to do. I love what Bitcoin, the inventor of Bitcoin, did. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take smart contracts and I'm going to give people like us the opportunity to take their IP, all of the content that they produce, people who produce, you talked of your daughter into theaters and what they were doing there, singers, musicians, everyone that has taken their IP and downloaded it into digital vaults, and he's going to give them an opportunity to create value through building communities. So on the basis of blockchain, he's going to turn around and say, you bring your IP. I'm going to help you build a system absolutely free. And it's absolutely free right now. Go and dig into this rally.io that I don't understand at all. What I'm worried about is that I've got some guy sitting on the other side of the world with $1 billion who says, I want to experiment with people who have got great content, IP, and I want to see if we can replicate what happened in Bitcoin under this thing where which he calls creator coins, allowing creatives the opportunity to build their communities. And what I'm noticing, and I think he's falling into the same trap that we're all falling in, he wants to connect. Once I read down deep to do my homework for Lee, when I read down deep into what he was doing to try and get an understanding, I recognized that He has exactly the same expectation as we have when we go out to collaborate with other people. He wants to collaborate with people who have already built up communities. I'm turning around and saying, hey, listen, I'm a humble little South African boy in Johannesburg. The only community I've got is a column of red ants that run up and down blooming the front yard. I want to build a community of followers. So what I've got is tons of content, and I want you to show me how by building a social token through Rally IR, that's going to help me build up a community of raving fans together with what we've got. So I'm taking a different view. And I'm hoping that someone, having voiced my frustration, Rob J, is having voiced my frustration that they'll get off their high horse about the speculative side of these things and use their IT nous that I could never ever spell and show us how to actually connect in our old world style content and selling into this new world that is coming right now. And I absolutely disagree with that mobile booth philosopher, the little crocodile who says this thing's only going to take place in the next 50 to 100 years. No, I think it's in the next 50 to 100 weeks. This thing is unfolding quicker than most people will ever know. And COVID has pointed out how quickly the world can change and rip the rug out from underneath you. I'm feeling my rug is being ripped out from underneath me at the moment. I'm ranting, Lee. Yes, I can see.
You're right. So Trevor, the soapbox, it's made for you. My anxiety is rising because I've got a workshop in 10 minutes, and I want to just wrap this up so that we can go to the topic for tomorrow, because it is business fundamentals tomorrow, and I'm hoping that it'll be interesting to see what we can take from today into tomorrow, because the subject for tomorrow is, what do people want? So the whole focus of Thursdays is business fundamentals, and the idea is, from Zig Ziglar, if you give enough people what you want, you will get what you want. So the question is, and it's the age-old question of business. Any person that goes into business has to know that they've got a market. So what do people want? That's the question for tomorrow. And we will decide on Friday what we pull out from this interesting and exciting topic that we raised today. So I'm on my way. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Bye.
Great, thanks Lee. Yeah, and we are back up at 9 o'clock on the UK chats, and then this afternoon on the USA chat. So if you want to join us on either of those, you're more than welcome to. But other than that, have a great day. We'll see you soon. Ciao.